Hello, Internet Wanderer. Let me regale you on a tale of a game that I really like. Defense of the Ancients, otherwise known as Dota, the quintessential MOBA, a genre that emphasizes strategy and tactics, much like chess. Dota is also the game that prides itself in its modding history, since the game itself has a long history with custom, community-made content, much like chess. That's a lie. Valve, being the company behind Dota 2, highly encourages their players to make their own custom content with Valve games. There's an entire tab in the main menu of Dota 2 that's purely for custom games and content. Some of it is amazing, and some of it is, questionable. This isn't exclusive to Dota, as all of Valve games have a rich history of modding and custom content. Counter-Strike, Portal, Team Fortress 2 all have deep roots in player-made modification. But I won't get into all of that. I've already made a video covering all of Valve's games and their history. Dota itself is a mod of Warcraft 3, a real-time strategy game made by Blizzard, and its earliest versions date back to 2003. Fast forward an entire childhood and Dota is one of the biggest games in the MOBA genre. It still holds the biggest prize pool in gaming history and, in my opinion, has some of the most unique and creative game designs and mechanics in any competitive video game out there. And amidst all of this prospering that the main game Dota has, any spin-offs of the Dota brand can't exactly claim the same thing. Dota is successful, very successful, but hot damn. The 3 spin-offs that it has range from could have been great, could have been better, and coulda woulda shoulda never happened, in that order. That can be a topic for another video, but today I want to cover one of these spin-offs. The one that had potential, the one that was a pioneer of an entirely new gaming genre, and a game that, in my opinion, is the worst case of Valve abandoning one of their games. And given that it's Dota 2's 11th birthday not too long ago, and its biggest tournament is coming up soon, and their totally secret upcoming game that nobody knows about, wink wink, I thought I'd celebrate by bringing up a game that's related to Dota that personally I wish had a second chance. If I can accomplish anything in this video, it's the hope that I can convince you, dear Internet Wanderer, to give this game that I'm talking about a try. And even if I can't do that, I'll cry, just you learning about this game's story and history is good enough for me. I'll even throw a guide towards the end if you're interested. I'm talking about the auto battler genre and the video game Dota Underlords. Hello, Internet Wanderer. My name is R-Gonax. I make video reviews, essays, commentaries, and shorts. I hope you enjoy this video enough to do the YouTube things. I've been thinking that maybe I'll start live streaming here on YouTube. It seems like a good way to keep in touch with everybody who subscribed to me. But anyway, enough self-plugging. Let's get back to the video. Dota Underlords is the topic of this video. But before we talk about Dota Underlords, I need to explain to the kids in the audience what exactly an auto battler is. Also known as auto chess, it was originally a mod of Dota 2 that really gained popularity in early 2019. Made by a small team that would later go by the name of Drodo Studios. Drodo stated that their 2 biggest inspirations for the auto chess genre was Mahjong and a Warcraft 3 custom game that went by the name of Pokemon Defense. Broadly speaking, all auto battlers play the same. The player places down units on a chess-like board, and then, after a preparation period, you get to fight an enemy team without any direct input from the player once combat has started. From a purely mechanical gameplay sense, auto battlers are a mix of many types of games and genres. It has the heroes from Dota, who all retain at least one core ability from the main game. The board is that of chess. You form your team or crew via a slot machine style of store. The player even uses the in-game gold to re-roll the heroes available, spending more money trying to look for the specific unit they're looking for. Units will typically have different alliances, synergies, and individual strengths that complement each other or can be used to counter the enemy teams. I won't get into too much detail about the nitty-gritty about the gameplay aspects. That's what the guide section of the video is for, but at least I want to show you how deep this game can be. I'll give an example of one of the various strategies in this game. Let's say you have a knight-centric alliance, meaning your units are strongest when they're close together and in head-to-head engagements. Knights serve as great frontline units, allowing you to build a backline of DPS squishy units to shore up the lack of damage. But now, your crew is heavily countered by being flanked from behind, something the Assassin Alliance is specifically built around. You can handily beat the other players by bulldozing over them, except one of the players in your game is an Assassin player, and he handily beats your crew, because at the beginning of the round, assassins will always jump to your backline, killing all of these squishies and causing the formation of your knights to fall apart, thus losing a lot of the benefits of their alliance. What do you do? One thing you could do is place one of your tankiest knights in the back, next to the squishies, and add a gap in the formation of your front line. This allows your crew to still easily beat the other players, since the gap in the front line will allow the one tanky knight in the back to catch up with the rest of the knights, thus allowing your team to still have a wall of beefcakes. But should you fight the one assassin player, the one knight in the back can intercept these assassins, hold them off long enough for your squishies to kill these assassins, and buying time for the other knights to reform their formation in the back of the board. This is just one of the countless strategies the player can do when making and positioning their crew. Story. Listen, this game is a spin-off of a MOBA that started off as a mod for an RTS game. Seriously, that's like 3 layers of who gives a fuck. The fact that there's a story is surprising to say the least. This game is set in the crime-riddled city of Whitespire, ruled by Mama Eve.
Mama Eve wills it so. Powerful and feared in equal measure, Eve has a stranglehold. Oh my god, they killed her. Okay. Whitespire, a smuggler's paradise with a power vacuum.
Who is now dead. Now with a power vacuum, all the would-be successors, the Underlords, are fighting for supremacy, hiring the heroes of Dota to do their dirty work. There's a bunch of extra lore, fluff, text, it's scattered all over the game and item descriptions like it's a FromSoft game wannabe. But the lore, much like your Instagram stories and Twitter posts, no one actually gives a fuck. All these different elements combine together to form this one-of-a-kind game that could appeal to various different niches in the gaming world. MOBA players, trading card players, tower defense players, those weirdos who play cookie clicker, and literally any game that uses turn-based combat and gameplay. The auto battler genre exploded in the Dota 2 arcade tab, causing one of the biggest influxes in player counts ever. Millions of players came to play, many of which have never even played Dota in their lives. People installing Dota just to play a custom game, in a funny way mimicking how people used to play the original Dota back in the old days of being a mod for Warcraft 3. I actually remember I had dozens of real-life friends completely addicted to Dota 1 and never once playing any other aspect of Warcraft 3. History really does repeat itself, doesn't it? This genre is great for those who want a game that can challenge them strategically without the burden of Twitch reflexes. At least, that's what I tell myself. It helps lessen the anguish of knowing that every day we edge ever closer to the grave. In reality, I just can't hit those 360 no-scopes like I used to, so I play these old man games instead. Auto battlers are also a great genre to play on your second monitor while you do something else. As of today, the original Dota auto chess in the Dota 2 arcade tab has 10 million subscribers, and even today still sees a lot of people coming into Dota just to play this custom game. Various other companies, after seeing the success of this breakout hit, made their own versions of the game. Mobile Legends has Magic Chess, Riot Games has Teamfight Tactics, which marks the 3rd time Riot has shafted something that came from a Valve game, and Blizzard has non-existent goodwill in its community. I mean Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Auto battlers really took off in 2019 and 2020. They have, however, lessened in popularity, but don't let that discourage you. These games still have a good player base, and the communities invested in these games are here for the long haul. Valve actually reached out and tried to hire the people that made the original mod, DOTA Studios. This is a classic Valve strategy. They'll reach out and hire talented modders and creators, enabling those creators to produce games of unparalleled quality. That's what they did with Counter-Strike and Team Fortress, and they were hoping it would happen again with Auto Chess. But, surprisingly, DOTA Studios declined their offer, saying that they wanted to make their own game, which is now called Auto Chess, available on the Epic Game Store. Yikes. But DOTA still gave their full blessing for Valve to make their own game, and even consulted with them during the creation process. Valve, undeterred, went ahead and made their own version, and that version is now called DOTA Underlords. DOTA Underlords is Valve's official entry into the auto battler genre. It was first announced in May of 2019, with an early access later in June of the same year. Underlords is also Valve's first attempt at mobile games. I would show you footage of me playing on my phone, but playing a video game on my phone is a form of torture that I am not willing to subject myself to. The game is fully cross-playable with both mobile and PC players, and as development continued, it got features like a replay system, ranked matchmaking, daily challenges, rewards, and even a battle pass. Woohoo! Underlords was massive on launch. It had well over 1.5 million downloads on the first day, with a record concurrent player count of over 200,000. This is the main reason that I titled the video the way that I did. Valve doesn't have a lot of overt failures when it comes to their game releases. There are, however, 5 notable exceptions: Ricochet, Counter-Strike Condition Zero, Alien Swarm, Artifact, and Underlords. Artifact was Dota's first spin-off, with it being a trading card game, and it being easily the highest profile flop Valve has ever had. Take a look at this reaction trailer. And all these other games barely scrape the notion of having a player count at any point of their history. None of these games had any real community or support. Even Artifact's max player count is only a third of what Underlords was. And the drop-off of Artifact's player count was substantially faster than Underlords. That's why I titled the video the way that I did. Because while you could argue that Underlords is technically dead or dying, none of these other Valve games ever truly lived. Underlords, at the very least, at one point in its history, was thriving. I could be wrong here, but I remember DOTA Underlords being the first time Valve set up a community Discord, and you may not believe this, actively communicated and even interacted with the community on a regular basis. This must have been a more enlightened time. The official Discord doesn't really exist anymore. From what I can remember, the people in charge of Underlord became increasingly frustrated with Valve's passivity and eventually just discontinued work on all things Underlord related. The last major update for DOTA Underlords was in August of 2020. For those in the audience keeping track of the dates, DOTA Underlords was officially released in February of 2020. The last game update was in August that year. That is 6 months of official support. If you want to be generous and include the early access period, that's 14 months. If that doesn't describe a game being short-lived, I don't know what does. People stuck around for a while, but eventually it wasn't enough. And as the years went by, that player count just got lower and lower. Granted, there's still a lot of people playing this game on mobile that I cannot account for. Steam charts doesn't really keep track of those mobile players. But regardless, the player count is a shadow of its former self. That paints a bleak picture, wouldn't you say? Why would I try a game that has a low player count and a history that messy? Why am I making this video? Maybe there's no deeper meaning or message other than, yeah, I really like this game and it's a damn shame what happened to it. This isn't really related to DOTA Underlords, but Team Fortress 2 just had its Fix TF2 movement not too long ago. The whole point of the movement was to get Valve's attention to try to fix their game and give it some TLC. I even covered the movement as it happened, and I saw all sorts of statements like TF2 is Valve's most neglected game, how could they allow such a well-received game like TF2 wither away like this? And while all these criticisms are absolutely correct, we should hold Valve responsible and accountable for how they treated Team Fortress 2, and I fully supported the community while TF2 was happening. I could never fully agree with the whole most neglected game title, because I knew that there was a game that Valve neglected far worse than TF2. And maybe this is all just a desperate attempt by someone who fancies themselves a nano microscopic celebrity slash influencer and hopes that by making this video, I can inform you on a game that I consider great, and maybe hopefully convince some of you to give this game a try. This marks the end of the history slash story part of the video. If you don't want to learn anything about the guide, you can click off here, but I do hope that if nothing else, I was able to tell you the tale of a game that I love. A game that, had things gone a little differently, could have been amazing. A game that I truly consider a gem and how I wish it could have been better.